You should be in your Unit 5 Wonders book. Open it up to this page and we will start reading. Okay, let me mute you guys.
Wait, I think it's called, is it Share the Harvest?
I will read you guys the title in a second. The title of our story that we are reading is called The Joy of a Ship. The Joy of a Ship. Who can raise their hand and tell me, do we think this is a fiction or a non-fiction story? Is this story going to be fiction or non-fiction? Hendrix, what do you think?
Non-fiction.
Non-fiction. Hendrix, what makes you say that? What makes you say that it's non-fiction?
Because it looks like real life.
Yeah. Yeah, that picture of a boat is a real picture. Somebody didn't draw it. Nobody colored it. Somebody took that picture with a camera. So it looks like maybe we're going to learn facts about ships. Our essential question up in the corner on page 132 says, how do things get built? So that tells me that maybe we're going to be learning in this story about how ships and other things get built. Down in the corner we have what's called a caption. We have a caption about that picture. And it says, ships take people and things all over the world. How does a ship get made? Find out here. So go ahead and flip your page. So you're on page 134. And we're going to read about how ships get built. We're going to read this story. So I'm going to read from the top of page 134. It says, what is needed to build a ship? Making ships employs many workers. This task uses lots of tools and parts as well. Let's see how a ship is made step by step. So they're going to take us through how to build a ship. We have another caption here underneath this picture. It says, these people study the plans for the ship. There are so many things to do. Our heading on page 135, top of the next page, says in big blue letters, frame it. First, workers build a frame. The ship can balance on blocks above a dock. Huge cranes hoist the big parts in place so that they do not fall. Workers must avoid being bumped by these big pieces of steel. It says some huge gantry cranes can lift up to 1,500 tons. That's a lot. Go ahead and flip your page. You should be on page 136. Page 136. At the top of that page, our header in blue is sheets of steel. First, two kinds of metal are melted into steel. It boils. Hot steel flows into flat metal sheets and molds. When the steel gets cold, it gets hard. The steel sheets are then ready for making a ship. So the steel gets really, really hot and they have to mold it to fit the ship. On the next page it says, a worker joins each steel section by heating the edges called joints. Workers put on gloves and a helmet to protect their hands and head. So what they're working with, it gets super hot, so they have to wear protective gear. Go ahead and flip your page. Flip your page. You should be on the top of page 138. In big blue writing, it says there, check it, paint it. Workers check all the joints, then they point out leaks and fix them. If a joint leaks, the inside of this ship will be moist with water. It might even sink. Then the ship is painted and this job is done. It gleams in the sun. The workers knew it would look nice. People will pay a lot of money to ride on this ship. So there's a lot that they have to do to build a ship. Go ahead and flip your page one more time. You should be on page 140. In big blue letters, it says, out to sea. The people on the dock point with joy as the new ship begins the first trip. Those on the ship wave as it glides toward the open sea. It says, did you know there are many kinds of ships? So that ship they were building is what's called a cruise ship. So people will go on that ship on vacation. But then there's also kinds of ships called icebreaker ships that break up ice in like lakes and stuff. We have a lot of aircraft carriers, which are ships that planes can land on. And there's cargo ships that move different things across water. So go ahead and flip your page 2 times. So you're on page 134 and 135. This is where you should be. Page 134 and 135 is we. Hi, Mariah. Mariah, we're on page 145 in our Wonders book. Okay, so I'm going to read this little, or how to build a ship in that story. So we learned words and pictures. Read page 135. Page 135. Listen for a fact. Listen for something we learned. It says, first, workers build a frame. The ship frame can balance on the dock. Huge cranes hoist, that means lift, the big parts in place so they do not fall. Workers must avoid being bumped by these big pieces of steel. So what's something that we learned on that page? What's something that we learned on that page? What do the workers have to do first when they're building a ship? What do they have to do first? It says, first the workers build a frame. So that we learned on this page that the first thing workers have to do when they build a ship is they have to build a frame. So in that box, they first. Go ahead and copy that down.
Miss Abowski.
Give me a thumbs up when you're done copying that. So let's talk about something else we learned on that page. I'm going to read it again. So we know first workers build a frame. The ship can balance on blocks above the dock. Huge cranes lift the big parts in place so they do not fall. So what else did we learn? What do they use to lift the pieces of the ship? What do they use to lift the pieces of the ship into place? What do they use? I just read it. What are they using to lift the pieces of the ship? What are they using? Does anybody know what those things are called? They're called cranes. Cranes. So we learned they use cranes. They use cranes. Go ahead and copy that down.
Zabrowski,
What?
what page are you guys on?
We're on page 145, Ziad. We've been on the same page the whole time.
I was in the bathroom.
Well, you need to try to go to the bathroom before we start our class.
Still hold it up. I'm still working.
Honey, I'm still holding it up, Ziad, but we're going to have to move on in a minute, and so you're going to have to copy it down later. Take 10 more seconds. Okay, I'm going to reread page 136, and we're going to find two pieces of information that we learned on that page. It says 2 kinds of metal are melted into steel. So we already learned something. How many kinds of metal are needed to make steel? How many kinds of metal do they have to use? Christian? 2. So they make steel. They use 2 kinds of metal and they make steel. Before I show you that, let's find one more thing that we learned. It says hot steel flows into flat metal sheets. When the steel gets cold, it gets hard. The steel sheets are then ready for making a ship. What happens when the steel cools down? What happens when the steel cools down? Isabella, what happens when the steel cools down?
It gets frozen.
Not frozen, but it hardens. It gets hard. Steel hardens when cold. So go ahead and copy down those last 2 boxes.
What, Victoria?
We're on page 145, honey, but we're just finishing up right now.
What?
What?
What book did you say?
145. Yes, Ziad.
When everybody else leaves, can I finish copying?
Can you finish copying right now?
I didn't do all of them.
Ziad, just copy it down, honey.
I already did this story, so...
Okay, if you are done copying down, boys and girls, that is all I have for today.
Okay.
Tomorrow we will be doing math, but if you're done, you can go ahead and log off.
Bye.
Bye, Hendrix. If you don't have a question, you're more than welcome to log out.
Except Lefty.
Bye, Mabuba.
How much dates did you do?
We read the story, and now we're answering this page, page 145.
Can you put closer? Bye. Lefty.
Yes, Isabella?